What is up, everyone? Welcome to this Smite tier list. This is Gozii, and I'm going to be talking about patch 3.18 and the god changes, the item changes that I think have affected where gods are right now in the meta. So we're coming up this weekend is going to be the beginning of the Smite lands for the end of the fall split. This is the first time they've ever done this, having 4 weeks in a row with just these land seeding competitions, which I think is going to be very cool. It's a great idea. The only issue, I guess, is that now all the teams from Europe have to fly over to the U.S. just to do some lands, and then they have to, I think, come back again for Super Regionals, and then come back once again for the Smite World Championship. So EU teams are kind of going to be coming over to the US a lot for this tournament, but that's okay. It's going to be really fun to watch. I'm very excited. I hope you are too. If you follow the SPL, if you're watching this tier list, I'm guessing that you do. So just keep in mind that when I talk about all the gods, that I'm focusing mainly on their competitive viability in the SPL, not so much the SCL because I don't watch it. So we're going to focus on PC SPL because that's really what I know best. I try to watch it as much as I can. I'm also on the Reddit team that releases the post match discussions. If you've ever seen that, so after every match, we create graphics with all the stats on how teams did. So that's something that I've been beginning to do. So that really allows me to watch the SPL even more than I usually do, try to get in all the information. So with this break, I'm going to use this tier list as really prediction for how I think the lands will go and how which gods I think are going to be chosen. We'll get into it. Again, I'm using this website. I've always used Juice Gaming, but I'm pretty sure that it's not been updated in a long time. So we are missing Erlang, Shen, Izanami, and Terra on this tier list. They have not been added. So I'm going to add them as we go, hopefully in the right spot alphabetically. So Agni is balanced. With the nerf to tank boots, it didn't really affect him at all because he has a dash. So he's balanced, doing very well. Amu's and Cab is definitely still very bad. I think the biggest thing is obviously his mobility issues and the fact that he has great early clear, but late game he becomes a huge target, and he's just a big target in general because people like to focus him as being this immobile, very slow kind of hunter. So he's very easily focused. Apuash is also going to be B tier. Again, mobility is a huge issue for him. His burst is also very hard to confirm because it can take a little while to cast the corpses and then cast the 3 and then do the explosion. The burst is not really super bursty. It takes a little bit of time, so people can easily walk out of it, and that's one of the bigger issues that I find with him. Um, on her is very good. He's one of those flavor picks that you'll see pop up every now and then in the SPL. I do see EU play him quite a bit. I've seen him play mid by like Nulissa and Pretty Prime. I used to play him mid, so he can be that flex pick, but I do think he's best in the ADC role. And with that passive, that penetration passive, allows him to have great clear, and he's really good at winning lane. So let's say you get to lane a little late with on her. Maybe you're clear. Maybe the guardian that you're matched up with is like an Ares, so he has terrible clear. Let's say you get to lane late. He's very good at pressuring the other team to win back that lane early game, and that's really what he does best. So he's very good. Amaterasu is probably one of the best soul laners right now. Her late game potential is just super amazing, and her ultimate is invaluable. So that is really a big thing. It's good for capturing objectives and confirming objectives. And because the ultimate is such a wide area of effect, you can stun many people at once. It's a huge ability to have on your team. Anubis, of course, is not very good right now, but that's competitive. Now, Anubis is interesting in Ranked and Conquest because it can be tough to really focus in Anubis if you're not, extremely adept at the game. And Anubis can absolutely wreck a mid laner, and if the jungler does not gank at the right time, if he does not get a key gank in there, then Anubis really can get huge. And do well. The key really is he's probably going to get a few kills early. If you can just hold him mid to late game, make sure that when he's ulting, that's when you want to burst him. Keep an eye on that. That's how you shut down Anubis. So ranked casuals, he can do very well actually. And actually because of that, I'll put him in B plus because I do think ranked casual he can do very well. Pro play though, they will absolutely shut him down. So you will not see Anubis in pro play, but in ranked, I think he actually could be played. Ao Kwong is I think A plus, not the best jungler right now. He's another one that can easily be countered in the pro league, but again ranked he wrecks in ranks, so he's probably S tier. But he can be very easy to counter. Pick up beads, focus him early. He's very hard to focus because his burst is so great and he has a teleport, but he can definitely be bursted. Aphrodite I think is actually okay. Like I think she's pretty solid. Now with the nerf to tank boots, that does hurt a little bit. When for this again short period of 2 weeks when the tank boots were completely broken, you could build them on Aphrodite and she'd be safe early because she'd have the passive protections and the boot protections, making her very tanky early. And her biggest issue, of course, is her early game. Once she gets into late game, she can just be completely broken because again her heal is super useful. Those healers are they said this in the last patch notes, but healers are either completely broken or they're underwhelming and a little bit below the meta. And I think that's where healers should be. They should be a little bit below the meta because it's true. Any little change to a healer will make them broken, and it's impossible to stop a team if you have like a Hell or an Aphrodite constantly healing you. So making them very squishy early game, easy to focus early game is a good thing. Apollo is right in the middle, very balanced hunter. You'll see him every now and then in the SPL, but not all the time. His ultimate is great for split pushing and then getting back into the team fight. So he's good. I don't think they should touch him. Last time he was in the A tier, they buffed him for some dumb reason, and then he became broken for a while. So if they just leave him where he is, he will be good for a long time, I think. Arachne, unfortunately, is not very good. You can currently build the tank boots on her if you want, but then again, you lose a lot of that extra early pressure. Arachne is all about getting an early kill. If you don't get a kill before like level 5 or around level 5, then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble because you really want to get those items before the other junglers so they don't completely wreck you. That's the key with Arachne, and you do have to build her a little tanky because her late game is very, very difficult. Um, Ares, I think, is actually below average right now. Every time I've seen him in the SPL, he's fed. Again, his clear jungle clear level 1 is super important, especially for a guardian, because if you get to lane late, that will allow the other team to push you into your tower, which will allow them to steal your camps, which will also allow them to get some early rotations into the mid lane. So you have to make sure that you have good clear as a guardian when you start out the game, or else you're going to lose the lane, and that might effectively lose you the game. So Ares has a lot of trouble with that. Artemis, unfortunately, is not very good. Panicat did play her recently, and like fed with her. So she is in a lot of trouble right now. She's a very good late game carry, but because she has no escape, it makes it more difficult. If you look at a god like Rama is a better carry because he has that dash which allows him to escape. And I mean, of course, he's a super hyper late game carry. So Rama's just a better version of Artemis, in my opinion. Athena is very good. I will put her in A plus. I don't think she's quite S tier. She does have a lot of counters. I think Emir can definitely counter Athena. Fafnir is a good Athena counter, but of course she can counter other gods as well. She can counter Kumba out of his overhead strike, and she can really counter so many gods with a taunt. Any god that's channeling an ability. If you're playing Guan Yu support and you're playing against an Athena, you're probably going to lose lane because she will just taunt you out of your Talu Assault, which is your only lane clear really. So she's good, but I do think that there are other guardians that are just doing a little bit more than her right now. Awilix is another one of those that is completely in the middle. She's very balanced. I think Agni, Apollo, and Awilix are kind of the shining examples of balance in their respective roles. Awilix is a great jungler. She has a lot of control. Her mobility is great. Her jungle clear is okay, not like the best in the world, but she does very well. Again, she's one of those like she's a player god, which to me means that you have to really be an Awilix player in order to like her. I think she's one of those weird picks that people might forget about, but she can just completely control a game. She's also a great support jungler when it comes to like the late game. Bacchus. So Bacchus is my top two guardians right now in the S tier. Um, his laning used to be bad, but now that now that he has I think more damage on his breath, they buffed that. This was like the beginning of season 3, but that really kind of made his lane clear a lot better. than it used to be. And his bursts and his aggression just is so annoying to play against. And again, if you weren't aware, knockups are like the best form of CC in the game, and the reason behind that is because you can't beads out of it. If someone knocks you up and you beads it, you're still going to have a short amount of time that you fall. So it's really technically better than a stun or a root, because if you beads out of a stun, obviously you're just going to be free to walk away. But in a knockup, you're still going to have the amount of time that you fall. So the knockup is huge. The belly flop into the burp combo does too much damage. His ultimate does way too much damage. I think a little nerf to his ultimate might be okay, and will probably make him balanced. Really, just a little bit of a nerf to that damage wouldn't be the worst in the world. I think that would be great because he can like kill someone at like 20% health with his ultimate, so it's pretty ridiculous. Bakasura is unfortunately bad. He's too squishy, has no lockdown, and you'll notice a lot of the B tier gods they don't have any lockdown. They have not great CC. I guess Arachne does have some CC, but a lot of them don't have escapes, which is huge. Mobility and having an escape in Smite is actually very, very important. Bakasura does have an escape, but he doesn't really use it to initiate. You really want to save that escape to get out, and he doesn't have any lockdown. His ultimate can be easily countered with sprint. Um, or even like a shell. If you buy a shell, that's a good counter to Bakasura ultimate. And because he's so squishy and he has to basic attack really to do anything, it puts him in a lot of trouble. And Arachne's the same thing. She has to get up close in the team fights in order to do anything, and that puts her at a lot of risk. That's why you got to build her a little bit tanky. Bakasura again cannot get enough farm. There's not enough farm on the map to really get him the items that he needs in order to be both have strong basic attacks, but also some defense. So he's just in a weird spot. Bastet is probably A tier. They buffed her recently. I don't think she needed the buff, but I guess she was underplayed, so that's one reason. I really think even if a god is underplayed, you should just look at other statistics rather than how much they're played, because Osiris is not played very much, but he does not need a buff. Osiris is great. And I think Bastet was good, and there's no need to buff what they did. So we'll see. I don't think people play her that much because her kit is a little bit boring, but she might get played a little bit more. Probably not in the SPL, in these lands at all. Bologna, I think, is another one, completely balanced solo laner. She does not really take over the lane like she used to, which is great. And she does. Obviously, her counter is Tyr. Tyr can just fearless her out of her bludgeon, so that's a good counter to Bologna. And she's just good. She does very well. Her hammer still hits really hard, but she just isn't broken like she used to be, which is great. She's in the perfect spot. Cabrakan or Cabroken is not Cabroken. He is Kabad. He cannot support. He's a fat Loki. All of his abilities, or two of his abilities, are very close range, so that puts him in a lot of risk, especially early game. If he tries to go up to someone to use his abilities, he's going to find himself in the middle of the wave, getting poked by archers, getting poked by the ADC, and if the enemy support CCs him for even a little bit, then he's gonna die like before level 5. So that's a big issue for him. You really need some kind of long range clear as a guardian, and he doesn't have that. So okay in the jungle, not great in the solo lane, but maybe could be played jungle. I wouldn't recommend it. Shock is unfortunately not quite A tier. I used to have him in the A tier, but he really is just bad mid to late game, and the late game is very important. Objectives are very important as well. And Shock, just it doesn't matter what he builds. You would have to build full damage in order to make his late game uh, any any bit better than it already is. But as he stands right now, his ultimate is really just very weak. The silence is not like that great. Silence is like the worst form of CC, or one of the worst in my opinion, besides maybe a slow, which he also kind of has. So he has like the two worst forms of CC in his kit, which means that he doesn't have much lockdown. And his damage does fall off. But he can clear. He can probably win a solo lane early game, but that's really all he can do. Chunga, so I think Chunga is actually very good. Playing against Chunga is super annoying. Yeah, she doesn't have good clear. Yeah, she's squishy, but once you get to that mid to late game when she's building Rod of Asclepius or Lotus Crown or these, these healing items. She's very hard to kill, especially with her 2. So if you can, again, she's one of those, if you can survive the early game, make sure that your jungler takes care of you for the first like 10 to 15 minutes, then you should be okay for the mid to late game, but you can find yourself in a lot of trouble early. But I do think she's very good. Chiron, I think, is right in the middle as well. He's a great mid ADC, or a mid hunter, I guess. I think his ultimate is very good for locking down those squishy mages if they're sitting under their tower. And actually, that's I think one of the reasons Agni, you could make an argument for being like A plus tier, is because Agni also has that. He has that super long range ultimate, which can just lock down a mage. And it's really, it's very, very useful in the mid lane. ADC, he's still good. You're not going to see the ultimates being as important because, of course, you can have the support peel for their ADC, so it's a little bit more difficult. But in mid lane, it's actually very good to lock down the enemy mage. Kronos is very, very good. You're seeing Kronos a lot right now, like a lot. I'm tempted to put him S tier. I'll put him A plus. Because I do think, of course, magical ADCs are huge in the meta right now, and I think it's going to be that way for a while, at least until season 4, because their clear is just so reliable. Soul and Freya, Freya's clear is okay, but Soul's clear is great early game, and she carries late game, which is, Kronos, again, I think his clear is a little underrated, to be honest. And once he gets huge late game, it's ridiculous. He just chunks people. So yeah, he's very good. One of the top ADCs right now. Cupid. So Cupid's interesting. I think the way his kit is right now, with the changes, of course, if you haven't seen the patch notes, go check out the patch notes. I don't want to go over it. I think the way his kit is right now might be a little bit broken. The main reason is because of that, the passive attack speed they gave him on the Flutter. He can get up to 20% passive attack speed, whereas before the kit would only give him attack speed when he used the ability, and I don't remember what the length of time it was, but you would only get attack speed for a little bit of time, and that's how almost every other attack speed buff is in the game. So if you look at like Artemis or like Rama or any other like carry, you're looking at an ability that will activate attack speed for a short period of time. But now Cupid is getting passive attack speed up to 20% permanently, and I think that's going to be ridiculous. What that really means in my mind is that you can start building crit super early on Cupid. Also, what you could do, in my opinion, is you could rush Itch of All, get Death Toll, rush Itch of All, then get your boots, and then get Deathbringer or some other, maybe Rage crit. Like get a crit item like third to fourth item, and with that, and then rank your Flutter first, and then that's gonna make Cupid just crazy OP with that extra attack speed. So you have Itch of All, which is 30% attack speed, plus the passive. That means he's gonna have 50% attack speed if you level up Flutter first. So by like level 7 or 8, I think you're going to have 50% attack speed, which is crazy. And so that build could be broken, but we'll see what happens. The PTS is supposed to start today, so I'm actually going to check it out, see if it's online after I do this tier list. And I'm going to test out Cupid and test out that crit build, see if it's good, because that might be pretty broken. We'll see if they change it. I think they should. But I think the way that his kit is now, he's probably going to be A+. Maybe S, but I can't put him in S right now. But I do think that it probably will be pretty broken. But again, he's Cupid, so can I put him in S? No. And I think his ultimate is probably just the same. I don't think his ultimate changed too much. So that's Cupid. We'll see what happens. Fafnir is again one of the top guardians. Gets first banned a lot, if not first banned, like second or third ban. And then when he's not banned, he's usually picked. So he's definitely top guardian. The biggest thing that I think is important to note about Fafnir is his ultimate is a great zoning tool, especially if you're if your team is, if you have less people defending a tower. So let's say an enemy team kills 2 of your players, now it's 5v3, one Fafnir ult, and you're going to push them back. It doesn't matter how, you could only have 3 people, you're still going to push them back because of, again, you get the attack speed, the coerce and the 2 stuns. The other team knows that one of them is probably going to die because of that ultimate. So it's a really good zoning tool. Very good for taking objectives as well. So yeah, I mean, who's surprised? The big dragon ultimate is awesome. Like no one is surprised by that. So he's very good. And his curse strength is also a very good ability. Fenrir, I think, is also very balanced. Can get a lot of kills early game, very aggressive early, but then has a role mid to late game. He's more of a support type god, which I think is a big reason why you can separate him from gods like Arachne or Bakasura, because Arachne and Bakasura only have early games, whereas Fenrir actually can change over the game from being a very aggressive, high damaging god to being more of a support. So that's why he's a lot better. Um, Freya is up there with Kronos, one of the top ADCs right now. Uh, really all you have to do is make it to hasten. Once you get Hasten Fatalis online, you're all set. That's really the key to her kit. You have to build it on her, or else she's really not going to be able to chase down people that well without it. So that's key. Obviously, buy like Demonic Grip, Rav Tahuti, all those normal items as well. Um, but she's a hyper carry by all means, and is very scary to play against. Gab, I think, is right up there with Athena as far as supports. Um, his clear is not great, so that is one of the big issues with him. That you will probably get to lane late, but because his clear is really like everyone knows that his clear is not good, you're not supposed to win lane with a Geb unless you're playing with a very high clear hunter. Then you might win. But the point of Geb is not to win lane. The point of it is to survive lane, use your Geb shield on your hunter to make sure they don't die, and then make it into the mid to late game. Because his zoning and his peel is really good. And of course he has the rollout, which is a great ganking tool. It allows him, to go between lanes very quickly. But of course it's not a reliable escape because it takes a long time to charge up. So, I wouldn't rely on it as an escape, but it is a great way to initiate. Guan Yu is a plus. Again, Guan Yu can definitely be countered by like Athena, or Kumba can absolutely counter Guan Yu. With the Rainforest Greaves, though, that made Guan Yu even better in the support role specifically. Now, on the patch notes, when they initially buffed those boots, they said it was to allow warriors to kind of take that support role. So, like, they mentioned Ravana, which, of course, who would take Ravana in the support role? There's no need for that. But I think Guan Yu is one of those warriors that is better in the support role than he is in Soul Lane. In Soul Lane, he's really like A tier, maybe B plus, but in the support role, he's A plus, verging on S. So, and the heal, of course, is great. Hades is unfortunately very bad. Don't play him. I'm gonna put him in C tier. His kit does not work. The reason behind that is because it's so close range. He's built to be a tank, but he's not tanky enough. So you have two choices. Or three, I guess. If you build full damage, then all of a sudden you're putting yourself at a high risk because your ultimate, again, it channels for a very long time. Also, everyone on the enemy team is going to notice if you ult, so you're a big target. And if you build too much defense, then all of a sudden you become only utility, and then you can't be played mid because mid is supposed to be doing like the backline damage. And Hades is not a backliner; it's not his role. So those are two things. What you could do is like a hybrid build, but then again, you're losing a lot of DPS doing that, and mid lanes really need high DPS in order to perform well. So his kit just doesn't really work. Hebo is B. In duel, he's very good, but is very easily focused. Just has no escape, super slow, and his good poke. But you really want to have those big bursty AoE kind of abilities compared to a Hebo. So he's really just B tier. Hell is also not good, B tier. Gets focus early. That's the biggest thing. And again, all of these gods in the B tier, most of them will get focus early because, again, she doesn't have any escape. And she also has to get in the middle of the wave in order to do her clear because it's an AoE around her, which puts her in a lot of risk, especially if a jungler is about to gank you while you're trying to clear the wave. And level 1, if you're playing mid-hell, let's say you're playing against a Vulcan, you're in big trouble because you're gonna say, well, your only clear is that AoE ability. I don't remember what it's called. Um, and so the Vulcan's gonna put his turret out. You're gonna go clear the wave. The turret's probably gonna hit you 3 times. If he hits you with his meatball and then his backfire combo, all of a sudden you're dead. So you really have to be careful, especially once you get to the lane with her. Getting to lane with Hell is probably the hardest thing to do because she just will get focused. Hercules is A tier, solid. I think has probably one of the most boring kits in the game, but people who like Hercules play him very well. So he doesn't need to be fixed, but his kit is what it is. Hu Yi is probably not in the same spot he was. He's just he again his ultimate is great for securing objectives. He is pretty good lane clear, but he's not quite to the same the same scale as Freya or Kronos or Sol, but still can definitely be played. Hunbats is A plus, has always been A plus, does not need to be changed. He's pretty balanced, but again, his ultimate allows for a lot of control. So I think his ultimate alone puts him in the A plus tier. Um, Isis, so they just changed the scaling on her wing gust. Apparently they just put it back to where it used to be. They increased it by 10%. So her early clear should be a little bit better than it has been without the purple pot. She's still going to be in the middle of the pack as far as mid laners go. I don't see her coming back in the meta. Maybe she'll get played in the lands. I wouldn't be surprised actually if you do see like one Isis, maybe two. Um, so we'll see because a lot of pro players played Isis, and especially like end of season 2, even I think the beginning of season 3, a lot of people were playing Isis, so they have that in their back pocket, and now you might see it again. I'm actually thinking that might happen. Janice is S tier, probably the best mage now with the nerfs to Raijin. Has always been top S tier kind of there, but again, the utility is great. The ultimate is great for ganks. The biggest thing about his ultimate is if you're the enemy mid laner against a Janice, you can say, enemy ultimate incoming, be careful, but you won't be able to rotate in time before Janice has already done what he needs to do. So his rotations are just better than any other mage in the game, pretty much. Jingwei is up there with she might be S tier. She's actually a little bit broken, not super broken, but her passive allows her to get more farm than other hunters. If you think about it, a normal hunter cannot fly to the wave, which means that when Jing uses her passive, she probably can get 1 to 2 extra waves, which means that she's going to have a pretty big lead as far as her build goes and experience. And so that means that she can make sure that she gets to late game being very strong, a little bit better than almost any other hunter. So that's really why she's broken. I don't really play Jingwei, but the people who do are very very good with her. Her knockup is also very very annoying, good disruptive ability. So Kali unfortunately is B plus. Another one of those basic attack junglers that just doesn't really work right now. Very easily focused early game. She was big for a long time, but just isn't anymore. But is a little bit better than those B tier junglers, in my opinion. Khepri, I think, is balanced. You don't see Khepri at all in the SPL because he really is not an aggressor. He's a backline support. He's a true support, if you want to say it that way. And people are playing again. Fafnir, Bacchus are the top tier guardians, and they're like the 2 most aggressive guardians in the game. So that's really what you want. And again, the key to that is getting control of the dual lane early, pressuring them belly. When Bacchus comes out, he's going to belly flop you right away and just push you back as much as he can. It's a huge race. And whoever wins that competition of who can push the lane, they're the ones who are going to have control of the enemy's camps, and they're the ones who are going to be able to rotate to mid lane first. And a Guardian rotate to mid lane should almost always result in a kill if they do it right. So that's why aggression in supports is huge. Khepri does not have that. Slow rotations cannot. He really has to just sit back, which is not perfect. Uh, Kukulkan, I think, is A. You know, he's definitely got a lot of issues with him. But if you have like a guardian or a jungle who can set up his ultimate, like Kumba and Naja, those two gods are very key. Then he can do well. And really, hitting your ult is the biggest thing with him, because the whirlwind, while you can use your slow to set up the whirlwind, it's actually not a great um, setup. It can be walked out easily, and it might tick a couple times. So the ultimate is really the burst that you want to confirm kills with him. And so there we go. Kumba is the perfect Kukulkan combo. Kumba really sets up so many people. His his Mez is the dumbest ability in the game, in my opinion. It's so long. If they reduce that by 1 second at each rank, he'd probably go to like B tier, but I think that that would just make him a little bit more balanced. Of course, he's not broken, but that ability is just very, very annoying. And he's the best CC god in the game. There's really no question about it. The biggest issue with him is his clear is not very good, but you know, you can still set up your team to get kills. It's not like the biggest issue in the world, but just know you're probably going to be sitting in your tower with Kumba. And that really comes down to jungle clear. His jungle clear is just not good enough. So you're probably going to be to lane late, like I said. Loki is the worst god ever. Um, you know, can't be played seriously. He's a big joke. So, you know, he really should not be played. But he can split push. That's something, I guess. Medusa, I think, is solid. Medusa should be in a better place than she is. She's one of those characters that just gets forgotten. I don't know what it is about her. She's one of my favorite hunters in the game. If not my, she's not my favorite, but she's one of the favorites. I love her ultimate. You know, her ultimate is a stun, and it can really just chunk people. It's a great way to confirm kills, and it's just a great setup ability, and her clear is great too. She can get a lot of good poke with her poison spit. Her dash will, I think, stun someone for a little bit of time. So she has a lot of CC as a hunter, like almost too much, and I don't really understand. The builds right now for hunters are mainly pen focused, and that's what she wants. You want pen to make sure that her ultimate hits hard. So that means if you're gonna build anything on Medusa, it has to include Titan's Bane. Titan's Bane will make sure that her ultimate hits for as much as it can. Um, so yeah, I think she should be higher up, but she's not. She's very forgotten god. Merc is not very good. You saw Weekend play him in the SPL and just got like completely destroyed. He like fed really badly. He did come back in the mid to late game, so maybe that's the key to Merc. You know, just understand that early game you're probably going to die once or twice, but it doesn't matter. Once you get your items online, you're still going to be good mid to late game. So that's probably why I'd put him with Kali above those other junglers, because even if he feeds, he can be okay, but he's still not very good. I don't think. Um, Another thing about Merc, before I move on, is that his dash and his ultimate can put him way out of position. So if you ult and let's say you whiff it, that all of a sudden means that you're going to be like deep in their jungle or in their tower or somewhere you don't want to be. So that can be very risky. Neith is very strong. One of those reliable gods. Is very safe. Has a lot of good early clear and can also carry late game. So she's very strong. I guess the biggest weakness for Neith is again her jump, her leap. You can always tell where she's going to land, so you can use one of your abilities when she lands to maybe confirm a kill. But I still think it's a good leap. I mean, it's a very long ranged ability, so she's very good, very safe. Nemesis. So Nemesis did just get nerfed. Void Shield also got nerfed, so she might be in a lot of trouble. She was, of course, like S plus. Now I'm gonna put her in A tier. Her early game is going to be, I hate to say, it, but like complete garbage. Her early game is gonna be very, very bad. They nerfed uh, I think the damage or the amount of health that you steal early game, and you know it's just going to be tough with her. You know, you're going to probably find yourself feeding a lot. I do want to try her out in the PTS today, so we'll see about that. Will you see her in the SPL again? I'm questioning it. I really am. We'll see how this next week goes. We'll see what happens um, in the LAN, but I would not be surprised if Nemesis gets kind of pushed aside. We'll see. Naja is another one of those very good, I think, balanced junglers. You'll see him picked up every now and then. There are some uh, players who are very, very good with him, and it's kind of their specialty. I think Awilix is in that same kind of group as Naja. Of course, Naja got the awesome skin, so you might see more of him because of that. But he's a good setup for other gods with his ultimates. He has a good stun with the sash, but again, he can miss his abilities. He's a little tricky, but is still a very good, very high bursting jungler. Nox is unfortunately very bad. Uh, Even if you're good with that Nox combo, you're gonna miss it. It's gonna happen. So it just can be a big waste of mana. It can be a big waste of lane clear if you use your combo to poke a god instead of clear the wave. So you can find yourself in tower. She does have a pretty okay dash now, but the dash is better when you use it to initiate rather than escape. So that's actually a very tough decision. And of course, there are ultimate chunks, but it can miss. You should miss with it, but it can miss. So it's really her combo is just not super reliable. Even the best Nox players are going to miss their combos every now and then. So Nuwa I think is right in the A tier. I love Nuwa. She was one of my original mages that I started playing. I'm starting to find her a little bit boring now. I don't think her kit is that interesting. Of course, they changed the clay minions to have better AI, which is very helpful. But again, her early clear is not good, and she doesn't have a real escape, so she can be focused, and she's a little risky early, but if you play it safe, you should be okay mid to late. Odin, unfortunately, is not good. The changes they made to Phantom just made his ultimates not good anymore. The fact that now Phantom, if you didn't know, it's an AoE effect, so the entire team, if you use Phantom, can get out of an Odin cage. So that's just a huge Odin counter. If you see an Odin on a team, pick up Phantom, and he's going to be useless. So it's too bad. You might see him in support, but he's dropped off because of Phantom. Osiris is definitely one of the best soul laners. Does not get picked that often. I think I think in the LAN you're gonna see more Osiris. I'm predicting that's my big prediction. You're gonna see more Osiris at the LAN, um, especially with I think the support builds changing with the reinforced Greaves. You might see a little bit more damage in those builds now, and of course Osiris's early pressure is very good. You can build Ichaval, but again, Ichaval is not great against certain gods. If you're playing against a tier, you definitely don't want to build Ichaval because you can't kill a tier. Um, it's very hard to kill a Vamana as well. So you really have to pick your builds and what you want to do with him. But his early pressure is great, and then he can carry that into the mid to late game. Poseidon is not good. I'm gonna put him in B plus. He feeds a lot. Aegis just is a full counter to his ultimate. Um, and he can't get out of fights. He really has to stay way in the back line, or else he's going to get focused. And he's going to get focused anyways by good players. So he will never get played in the SPL, at least not for a long time. Maybe Season 4 something will happen that will put him back in the meta, but I don't think it will. Raw, I think, is fine. Raw can definitely be played. I've seen him be played a little bit in the SPL and has not done very well. Pretty Prime has played him and has really underperformed. But again, great lane clear. He's like the best healer technically because he's a healing mage. So you might want to think about maybe getting Lotus Crown on him. But and if you're good with those raw snipes, if that's your thing, you can definitely play raw. Raijin. So Raijin was, in my opinion, he was the best mage in the game. He's now dropped back to 8 plus. That Thunder Crash combo was huge. Not only that, but the fact that the Thunder Crash the area of it can actually cover the entire wave. It means that you could have used your Raiju on an enemy god while they're next to the wave, and then Thunder Crash on them, and then also have the Thunder Crash hit the wave as well as the Raiju, which means that he can get both. He can have the best of both worlds. He can clear the wave as well as do way too much poke on enemy gods. And now that they've nerfed that Raiju Thunder Crash combo, he's probably going to only use the Raiju and then his one to clear the wave. He's not going to look for that Thunder Crash combo as much, which means Thunder Crash will mainly be like an escape ability now, most of the time. So that's just hurt his poke a little bit. So we'll see where he goes. I think A plus is good for him. He'll probably still get picked. But again, Thunder Crash combo is not very good anymore. Rama is up there with Jingwei, probably the two best hunters right now. Very good carry. Again, the biggest difference between him and Artemis is he has an escape. He can leap out. But his late game is ridiculous. He does so much damage with that attack speed buff, and then the damage from his kit is just crazy. So, and of course, most people who dare to play Rama play him a lot. They practice with him a lot, so they're good with those snipes as well. And then of course there are other players who just don't want nothing to do with him because he has specific play style for sure. Oh, before I move on, I did forget Erlang, Shen, and Izanami. So as you can see, there is no Erlang, Shen, or Izanami or Terra on these for all these icons. So I will talk about them now. This is the first time I've talked about them in a tier list. So Erlang, Shen. First off, I would put him in A+. I don't think that he is the best warrior. He can definitely be played. He gets played quite a bit in the SPL. The biggest one that I think of is Cope Baby. Plays Erlang a lot. He's not first pick, first banned, but I do think he's a notch above the A tier. You know, he's a single target warrior, which can work, but it's a little strange. It's a little clunky. You know, he has the pin, he has the taunt, and he can knock up people with his dash. But if you compare that to like a Guan Yu who can heal your entire team, or an assassin who can completely take over an early game, you know, you have a Bologna who has a lot of like AoE stuff, a lot of utility. He just doesn't. I mean, Bologna obviously is A tier, but she offers something that Erlang doesn't, and I think that Erlang is, you know, just has a lot that's good, but you know, it has a lot of weaknesses as well. So I'm gonna put him in the A+ tier. Can definitely be played in jungle as well. I wouldn't recommend it though. I think he's best in the soul lane. So that's Erlang. Izanami. So Izanami is a mess. Her kit I think is has a lot of issues with it. Um, you really should not build her crit because she only does half damage with her basic attacks. So half damage will be done when it goes out, half of it will be done when it comes back. And you can only crit once, you can only proc it once, so crit does not really help her at all. Pen is really what you want to build. You want to use your basics to set up for your ultimates. And again, her little slow ability is very easily missed. It has a very slow activation time. They improved her dash, which I think is good, but I think the slow is not reliable. That ability is not reliable. It is her lane clear, you know, but she really is having a lot of trouble right now. Not many people are playing her, and people who do play her are generally feeding and losing because her ultimate can also miss. She doesn't have a great setup for her ultimate as well. The slow is okay, but you can still, with the slow, get out of that ultimate. So I don't know what they're going to do with her. They've been trying to change her, trying to buff her. They did just change her the last patch. To be honest, I'd put her in B+. Right now, I don't think that... I think her kit is a lot. There's a lot wrong with it. So we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe she'll get played in LAN. I really doubt it though. I don't even know why I would say that. Like, I really doubt she'll get played in LAN. So that's Izanami. We'll get to Terra once we get to T. Ratatoskr is next. I think Ratatoskr's balanced. I really think he's right in the middle. You know, they changed his kit. He was OP for a long time, and then they had some good nerfs. I think the nerfs are great. You know, you can get away from Ratatoskr. The biggest thing is he's great at diving towers with his ultimate. That's the biggest thing. That's how he gets a lot of his kills early game. But you know, if you just play it safe, be aware when he's ganking, you know, he can definitely be outplayed. So I think he's right where he needs to be. I don't think anything needs to be changed. He gets played in the SPL sometimes, not all the time, but you know, a lot of time when he does get played, he does do very well. So I think he's right where he should be. Ravana. Ravana is hard because they just nerfed him. I think he's probably A tier, to be honest. I think he's a notch below some of the other soul laners right now. I think the nerfs did hurt him a lot. Um, his early pressure is just not going to be as good as it used to be, and that's really where he shined. Like you could, the biggest thing is you could use your root ability to both clear the wave and to root an enemy, and then after you do that, you can beat up the enemy player a little bit. So he's a soul lane bully. He does take over the soul lane now, but if you're playing against an Osiris, you might find the opposite to be true. Osiris might be, you know, taking you out um, because of those nerfs. So I'll put him in A tier. Could potentially be A plus. We'll see. Will he get picked in the land? Probably not as much as he used to. Like I said, I'm expecting to see more Osiris. Probably a lot of Amaterasu. A whole lot of Amaterasu. Maybe a little bit of Ravana. And that's really it for soul laners. Maybe some more tier. We might see some more tier as well. Scylla. I guess I'll put her in A. She's verging on B plus. Her early game is really not good now without the purple pot. And if you're good at hitting her ultimate, she can do well, but a lot people miss her ultimate quite a bit. Her ultimate's pretty tough. It has a pretty long charge up time, so it's not the easiest ultimate in the game. She's okay. You won't see her get played in lane at all. Serket is moving up. Serket is A plus. You're seeing her a lot more in the SPL. Great burst. Her ultimate again has that like AoE poison damage. I've been trying that poisoned what is it? That crit item that's like poison star or something. Um, if you use that on her, that'll just add even more poison and some more slow to her kits. So you might want to build that like as your second crit item, or maybe the last item in your kit or something in your build. So she's good. You just have to know when to go in on her. And if she's also a good jungler to have with like a Kepri, because you can just jump in, do your combo, and then let's say you die, you can have Kepri to save you. So um, she's very strong. Scotty is not good. Um, very good early pressure. Kind of like an AMC, similar to that. Her ultimate is annoying, but really you just need like a beads to take care of it, or even maybe like a shell um, from your support. But I mean, all you need is your jungler to gank. Like, let's say you get an early gank on Scotty, then all she's done for the game. So she's very easily countered. It really just suffers mid to late game. But she's great in casuals. Like casuals, even ranked, you could probably play her as well. In casuals, she just like, destroys people because most of the time in a casual game, the jungler will not gank properly. So uh, Sobek. Sobek is A. Very very difficult to lane against. Again, has an ultimate that does way too much damage. Pretty good lane clear as well, but I say he doesn't have the best peel in the world. His pluck can be a little weird. You can definitely throw people the wrong way sometimes. Maybe throw them at one of your squishies and then they'll attack them. And so the pluck is a little bit risky. Not the best peel, but it's still very good. Soul is up here. S, maybe S plus. I haven't put anyone in S plus. I don't know if anyone is S plus, to be honest. I don't think. Yeah, I think she's S. Very strong. Best besides Rama and Jingwei, best ADC right now. Again, she has a big issue where she does too much early game in order to warrant having a super strong late game. I think that Hi-Rez is attempting to balance the game more to make gods more one-sided. So, like Nemesis, for instance, she was in a place before this last nerf where she, of course, was crazy late game, but her early game was also too good in order to warrant that late game carry. So you really want to make a Nemesis earn her stripes by surviving the early game, making her early game a lot more difficult. And I think that's what Soul needs. I think Soul, her early clear is too good. So maybe change the early game scaling on that ability. That might make her a little bit more balanced. But right now, the way it is, she's just crazy. And not only that, but she's the best tower pusher in the entire game. Like she just wrecks towers. So um, yeah, she's really good. Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong, I think, is very good. He's getting played quite a bit. He's another one of those solo laners that'll probably get played in the lands. Um, he does a lot of utility, very mobile. His ultimate is a great healing, and also I mean good burst on that as well. So he's great and great poke with the early game solo lane with his cudgel. Very good poke. So he's a little bit above A tier in my opinion. Um, Susano. Susano is also A plus. You know, they nerfed him. He's still very good. His kit just works. His kit is just it's one of the best made kits in the game. Like they released an excellent god with that. When he first came out, I was not sure about it, but once you start to see the combos and see how you're supposed to play Susano, he really does have an excellent kit. And that's one of those things where, you know, they could nerf him a couple times and it didn't really matter because he's still um, is great. So he's gonna be like top jungler in LAN. He's gonna be up there, probably first pick almost every game. Like he's definitely gonna be one of the best junglers. But again, he's not OP. He just does what he needs to do, which is great. Um, Sylvanas, you know, Sylvanas is A. He's getting played a little bit in the SPL. Is verging on bad, but is a little bit better than he used to be. Again, the no escape thing is huge. Um, and if you compare him to like an Emir, Emir also has no escape, but Emir has more damage. Whereas Sylvanas is more of a setup peel god compared to Emir. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, well, if I'm not gonna go, if I'm not gonna have an escape, I might as well be able to go ham, which is what Emir does. Sylvanas definitely cannot go ham. He's not have the capabilities to do that. Um, Thanatos is not very good. I think I saw him in the SPL and he like wrecked, but he should not get huge in game. He should just be focused early, kill the Thanatos, get him out of there, make sure he doesn't do anything crazy early game, and he's fine. So that puts him below. He's one of those really risky, uh, kind of all out junglers. So kind of a weird role. Thor is very good. He's not the top jungler right now. Of course, adapting Aninster, maybe Kivo Fred, they still play Thor. He's more of a backup now though than he is like a first pick against Susano. Uh, damn, I'm gonna put Susano S. He's the best jungler right now. Thor is really a backup more than anything. What I'm noticing is that if, let's say, Susano gets banned, Nemesis gets banned, but of course, since Nemesis got nerfed, we're not going to worry about that. If Nemesis and Susano get banned, then all of a sudden you're seeing adapting Anister say, all right, well then I'll play Thor. Whereas before it was like first pick Thor, you know, maybe ban Thor. So he's just not in that role anymore. Susano is easily the most requested, most viable jungler right now. Tier. So I said tier might get played a little bit more. I'll put him in A plus. I think there's a lot of warriors in that A plus tier right now. In fact, there are a lot of gods in general in that tier. Um, I think it's because again I'm leaning less towards S plus for anyone. I don't think anyone is completely carrying. You know, and Nemesis used to be S plus, but with the nerfs, she's back at A. Um, but I think tier is great. Again, tier is impossible to kill early game. He has a very good heal. He's also super annoying, and playing against a good tier player is like the worst. Um, so there are some players out there who play him very well. Uller is good. I'll put him in A though. I don't think he's the best hunter. He's another one of those that's he's kind of a flavor pick. Some people really enjoy Uller. You might see Uller mid, which I think is a little risky, but uh, you know he can do very well. I really don't have too much to say about him. Um, his clear is better than it used to be. He got some like a really good buff, so he does more clear. Um, yeah, he's good. All right, so I forgot again, but Terra. We're gonna talk about Terra now, even though I already skipped all the T gods. So Terra just got some nerfs. She no longer has a slow in her 2, and I think the root duration on her 3 got reduced. So she was definitely S tier um, before. I would put her now in A plus. Again, I don't have an icon to do that, but I think she would probably be S plus now. Your clear is still very good. The 2 is still a good ability, but you might miss it a little bit more often now. And of course, the ultimate is huge for team fights. Um, yeah, so she's probably A plus in my opinion. I don't really play her actually. I know that she's like super meta right now, but I just don't enjoy playing her to be honest. I don't find her fun. Um, I can't really explain why, but I just don't really get her. I just don't get her kit that much. I just don't like it. Um, but she's probably going to be A plus after these nerfs. Vamana. Vamana's getting played more, so I'm going to put him in A plus. He has a little bit of a tricky early game, but of course the ultimate is a great way to save yourself from getting ganked in the early game, and then mid to late game it's great for taking towers. It's a good zoning tool as well, so Vamana is very good. He's right there with a lot of the other warriors. Vulcan. Vulcan is good. I think he was S for a while, but he's calmed down a little bit. People are like, I think when he came out, with that buff to his MP5, people just wanted to try him out more. And so we had this weird thing going on where everyone was like scared of Vulcan. It was like, oh my god, his ultimate's like, and the reason behind that is because no one had played Vulcan for like years. So people were just now remembering that his ult was good. But remember, his ult is not. It got buffed a long time ago, like early season 3. But it's the same ultimate. Just get Aegis, and focus him. Like he has no escape. If you just kill that Vulcan, he's not going to be too much of a threat. But he does still get played, and I think he is a good mid laner. And of course, the MP5 does help him a lot. Shibalanke, unfortunately, is very bad. Probably the worst hunter in the game, besides Artemis and AMC. Uh, he will never get played in competitive, at least not for the rest of the season. Um, his early game is too risky. He has a great kit. His kit, his ultimate is very very good, but his early game is really really not too special, and he can get focused pretty easily. Whenever I lane against a Shibalanke, I know that I can just focus him, and once he uses his dash, he's really in a lot of trouble. So he's not in a great spot for competitive. Ranked, you could probably play him. Xing Chen. Xing Chen. I don't know what to do with him. He gets played a lot, but I still think he's garbage. His ultimate did get buffed. It's the wind up time is not as much as it used to be. It's tough. I'm gonna put him in B plus. He does get played, but every time I've seen him get played in the SPL, he does terrible. Um, Sometimes I'll see him in ranked or casuals get played in the support role, and he always feeds every time. I've never seen a Xing Chen win a dual lane. It's not happened. So he really is not great. Amir. So Amir is stupid. I'll put him in A plus. He's verging on S. So Amir is of course getting played solo lane by like Variety. Um, I think Amir jungle could also be a thing coming up. You might see Amir jungle in the lane. I wouldn't be surprised. There's like this again. Sometimes there are these like these flavor of the month gods that come out, and people just start trying them in different roles. They start experimenting. Of course, Amir Jungle has always been a thing, but it has not been a serious thing until recently. And so now you might see some Amir Jungle. The Blink Freeze combo is just crazy. It'll guarantee a kill for your mid laner like every time, because it's just such a good hard CC ability. Um, and you don't get that out of many junglers. So he's very good in the soul lane. Great support right now too. He's underrated in the support role. Of course, he doesn't have an escape, but he, like I said with Sylvanas, uh, Amir doesn't need an escape. He can just go ham and say, well, yeah, you can try to focus me, but I'm just going to freeze you and then ice carpet you, and you're going to be dead because of how much damage it does. On top of that, he has probably the best jungle clear of any Guardian, which means he's going to get to lane first, which means that if you clear the jungle camps properly, you're going to have you're gonna be a level 2, which means you can level up 2 abilities. So once you get to lane, you can freeze and then use your ice carpet again, and then boom, you have control of the dual lane. Um, the only thing with him is, of course, you have to be careful of jungle ganks because he cannot escape. So make sure you place wards early and make sure that your mid lane is calling because that's important. But he's very good, and he's one of those weird utility picks. He shouldn't be a utility pick. Um, should probably only be played support, but is doing well in solo and in jungle. So I would love to see a jungle Amir in the lane. Zeus is very good early clear, but has to build a little tanky. Should probably build Dynasty Plate on every Zeus, but his early clear is good enough that it doesn't matter. It's not like you're losing too much damage if you build a Dynasty Plate helm. Um, and playing against Zeus as a mid is annoying. So when I see Zeus on the other team, I'm just like counting down the seconds until my jungler ganks, because I just hate laning against Zeus. And finally, the last god on the list is Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui is bad. He's too close range. His ultimate is channeled, and it doesn't do. It's not a burst ability. It's a channeled ability. So it can be. People can just walk right out of it. If you have a sprint, just walk right out of that ability, and you'll be fine. It's just, and it's also a weird way to confirm a kill. Why not just use a Poseidon? I mean, not Poseidon, but like, why not just use an Isis ult or a Scylla ult to confirm a kill, or a Zeus ult to confirm kills, rather than using a channeled Zhong Kui as it like ticks, for like 10 seconds and then eventually you get the kill. It's just a weird ability, a weird kit. I just don't think it works. So that's it. That is my tier list. Again, this is right after patch 9.18. Let me know what you guys think about some of the changes to the items and the god changes. How you feel about the new boots? Do you think they're still good? I personally will use those boots on support still. I still think they're very good. But I think the goal of it with the nerf was to make sure that mages and junglers weren't picking them up. Even some hunters were picking up those tank boots. So I think that was the point of the nerf, and I think it's going to work. So again, and if you're like watching this now and you're about to play the PTS, let me know what you think about some of the changes. That'd be great. On top of that, if you like this tier list, I do have several tier lists on my channel, so if you want to check those out, some older ones. I do have a lot of other videos. I've been trying to do some more like lighthearted stuff lately as well, so if you have like suggestions for videos you want to see, just let me know. That'd be great. So thank you very much for watching, and hope you have a great day.